What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. Now, we had the weird timing of the Men's World Cup in November and December. And the great thing about that is it leads right into another World Cup as the Women's World Cup is about to start. I'm not nearly qualified enough to talk about that on my own, but y'all already know I know someone who is, so back and better than ever, once again, Mr. Brett Gosnell. Thank you for joining me once again, Brett.
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited about this.
Yes, you and me both. So first things first, I know 2022, the U.S. women's national team settled their equal pay lawsuit for $24 million. They aren't the only country who's having to have this fight for better working conditions. What's going on in that front for these other countries?
Yeah, so it's been going on a while. Famously, we'll talk about this player later, but Norway's best player, Ada Hegelberg, she sat out the last World Cup. So these issues have been brewing for a while, but this World Cup, two of the very best teams in the world are having major issues along these lines. France and Spain, they're not citing pay directly, but they are talking more generically about lack of professionalism within the federations of their countries, women's football being an afterthought. So there was a lot of talk of the star players for these teams sitting out. And it's very interesting. France has handled it more amicably. They're trying to placate the players. They fired the coach very recently. They brought in a new coach. So that may hurt because it's going to be a short run up to the World Cup for a new coach, but they're trying to, placate things that way. Spain, that federation has basically put their foot down and told the players to go to hell. Like, if you don't want to play, don't show up. They've kept their same coach they've had for since 2015. Thankfully, from the fans' perspective, it seems like both countries are going to have all their players. It seems like the players have decided to play. And we'll get into some of those players later. It would be a shame to miss out on because there's some superstars on those countries. But that's what's going on with France and Spain, and they're two of our main challengers. So this is a very relevant news story, just because these are two teams that have a chance to win the whole thing. South Africa is another one. They're not one of the favorites, but those players are basically just sitting out games because they're not getting paid. They got beat 5-0 by Botswana the other day because a lot of players sat out, and they even brought up a 13-year-old girl to play because they were so short on players. So that's a hell of a situation going on there. In England, there hasn't been any threat of any of those players sitting out, but there's a lot of tension going on there as well. And this directly does relate to play because England's Football Association, they always give the players a bonus. Just every player gets a bonus for being on the World Cup squad. Well, FIFA recently announced they're doing something similar. Every player in the World Cup is going to get just a bonus, just a cash bonus for being there. Well, England says, oh, well, y'all are getting the bonus from FIFA. We don't have to give you a bonus. So the players obviously wanting both bonuses. They're very upset about that. But I don't think anybody's threatened to sit out or anything. But they're the second favorite. They're very, very close favorite behind us to win the whole thing. So again, these are the big teams that are dealing with this kind of stuff.
That is certainly mind-blowing that we live in a world that doesn't treat women equally. Have you ever heard of this before? Man.
No, this is new to me.
This is brand new. But it does, it's sad to see also, like you said, how it could affect the fan experience. Clearly, these players want to play soccer. They love soccer. So for them to feel like they have to take such a strong stand shows you how important it is. And I just can't believe we're still here with we are still here with this, and seeing that it's not just like the smaller countries going through it, but like countries who like to look down at other smaller countries, like how we just went through it, the Englands, the Spains, the Frances, who are not only consider themselves more advanced in everything, but also soccer powerhouses, are still going through all this same bullshit. And man, so hopefully that gets worked out sooner rather than later. But let's move on to more fun stuff. The actual on the field play, U.S. women's national team, they've been dominant our whole lives. I know they've been going through a little bit of a transitional period. Kind of walk us through what it's been like, the recent history to how we got to this World Cup roster for 2023.
All right, so we are going for our third consecutive World Cup title. So I'll briefly run down our previous two just to give some context for this current World Cup. So in 2015, Germany was the favorite. We were the second favorite. And France was extremely good. Japan was extremely good. So there was about 4 teams you felt like could win the whole thing. At the time, I felt like France was the best team, just like watching the World Cup as it progressed. I felt like France was the best team. They had the most high-level, jump off the screen talent, and they just played a beautiful style. Thankfully, Germany knocked them out, so we didn't have to play them. Germany, of course, is the favorite, looked really good. We barely squeaked by Germany. And Japan looked extremely good. They were undersized, a little under-talented, maybe compared to the top favorites, but they were just such a beautiful technical style of play, just carving teams up. But we ended up beating them 5-2 in the final, so we put to bed any concerns that they might be better than us. So we – like I said, we were the second favorite. That tournament, wasn't clear at all we were going to win it. A lot of close games. At that time, we played a more direct style of soccer, I feel like, which is your top talented teams are going to be a lot more crisper passing, a lot more possession. We played a lot more of a we're going to be faster and stronger than you. We may not be more skilled, but we're faster and stronger. So we played a lot of long balls, a more, like I say, direct style of play. In 2019, however, we were pretty clearly the best team. We were the co-favorites with France, who was the host nation. And from start to finish, we were the best team. We were more skilled than everybody. So basically, a World Cup champion team from 2015 got even much better in 2019. So, we were the best team from start to finish. You know how if you're familiar, I know you are, if you're familiar with the format of World Cups, in the group stage, you can kind of finagle your way and maybe intentionally take a draw to set up your opponent for the next round. We knew we were going to have to play France early in that tournament if we won our group. So we could have easily avoided that. And we said, no, we were like John Morant. We're going to run up the chimney and we want all the smoke, So we intentionally won that group, played France in Paris. I attended that game in person, and I'm telling you, it was like SEC football stadium loud. I mean, it was bananas. It was packed out. So we went into that tough environment and won that game, beat England, who's extremely good, and then won the final against the Netherlands, beat Spain also. So we went through a murderer's row, but we were clearly the best team from start to finish.
That is wild as hell to do that, not only for a co-favorite against a co-favorite, but when they're hosting the World Cup and you just walk right on them, like you said, Ja does. Well, Ja does a lot of different things, but you just walk right up to him and just like, all right, we're going to end this right here. Like, let's go.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it might not have been the smart thing to do, but it was the, courageous. It was awesome. It was amazing. So the coach of those two teams, 15 and 19, Jill Lewis.
Hello, it's me, Brandon Silvers, your host. I'm here with Brett Gosnell. We just finished recording the Women's World Cup preview special, but we do have to issue a retraction for a mistake that was made. Brett is here with his daughter, and she's going to help him explain the retraction, the mistake that was made, and how sorry he is. Brett, take it away.
All right. So you see this 2-year-old child here. Say hey. She kept me up very late last night. We went to bed well after midnight, and then we got up at like 7. So, and she's leaving now. So that is why I referred to our previous coach as Jill Lewis and not Jill Ellis. I don't know why I chose Lewis. I think I've sent a few emails to a person named Jill Lewis before. I think that was in my head, but my favorite coach ever. I praised her. If you leave it in, I did in-depth tactical analysis at the end. I love Jill Ellis with all my heart. I wish she was still the coach because our current coach sucks. And just want to make that clear. I know her name is Jill Ellis now.
Yeah, he's known it for a while, too. I can vouch for that. And we have left in the end portion. Stay tuned at the very end. We are giving Jill Ellis her flowers because Brett felt terrible about this. We go into why she is his favorite coach of all time. Brett, thank you for the correction, and stay tuned for the rest of the show.
One last thing about Jill. She was born in England, but she still has the decency to talk with an American accent. That's another feather in her cap.
God bless her. All right. And we're off.
She's gone, unfortunately. So we've brought in a new coach, Vladko Andonovsky. So Jill was more of she wasn't thought of as a player's coach. This kind of started leaking out after she decided to leave after the second World Cup title. Just the way she handled certain lineup decisions and stuff, she didn't really care how the players felt. She was, again, just not a player's coach necessarily. Vladko Andonovsky, very much a player's coach. All the players love him. Coached the NWSL for years. The problem is he may not be a very good soccer coach. Actually, he never really had that much success in NWSL, and he's under his tenure, we have not looked very good. So in the lead up to this World Cup, not only are we having to replace several key players from the previous championship team, which I'll get into the specifics in a minute, we just haven't looked good. We don't score a lot of goals. It seems like Greg Berhalter with the men's team all over again. We just don't look very good offensively despite having a lot of talent. The Olympics in 2021, that's huge in women's soccer. That's like almost as big as the World Cup. We looked awful. I mean, I'm shocked that Vladko kept the job after that performance at the Olympics. I mean, we were just horrible. So, things didn't get that much better after the Olympics. The only bit of good news I have is the She Believes Cup, which is not really an important tournament, but you get some good teams at it. It's a good test to see where you are. It was played earlier this year, so it's usually played right before the World Cup. We won that tournament, won all 3 games against Brazil, Canada, and Japan. So looks good on paper. One of the players that is new this cycle, Mallory Swanson, stepped up, scored 80% of our goals. So she just went off.
Wow.
She's torn her patellar tendon. She's not going to be with us at this World Cup. So we get one ray of sunshine of good news here, and it's taken away from us. So long story short, we're the favorite again, but I'm very, very concerned about this one.
Geez, that's a brutal injury too. Anytime you're messing with tendons, you're in a lot of trouble. I say that from experience. So outside of the coaching style, like personality wise, how they handle the players, is there a difference in how they handle the on-field tactics as well?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like the goals just don't come with Vlatko. I don't know why. I mean, he's got the talent. He's really got just as much talent as we had under the previous regime, but I don't know. They just don't seem to come. I know that Jill, especially in 2015, we started out in a 4-4-2. It was clear early on that wasn't working. She made the switch to a 4-3-3, very good tactical decision, and then we ended up winning the tournament. We played a 4-3-3 the whole time in the 2019 tournament. She was willing to sub players in and out as needed. Lindsey Horan, who I'll talk about in a minute, she's one of the best number 8 midfielders in the world. She even didn't, by the end of that World Cup, she wasn't starting her because she thought Sam Ewis would give her more in that position, and controversial decision, but it worked out. So she seemed to always be willing to make the change when it needed to be made. And, I don't know if Vlatko does or doesn't do that, but the goals just aren't seeming to come with him.
Well, I hope they do, because as you know, I love offense. Well, you mentioned that we were coming around with some new faces, and we've had a lot of familiar faces who have kind of moved on, retired and everything, and we've had some injury issues. Who should we be looking out on our team this time around?
All right. So from the last World Cup, that elite 2019 team, Alex Morgan is back at striker. That midfield of Julie Ertz at defensive midfielder, which if you remember the Men's World Cup, Tyler Adams was the defensive midfielder. He epitomized that role. He was so good. Julie Ertz is probably even better. I mean, she's probably the best in the world at that position. Lindsey Horan, who I just mentioned, she's that box-to-box midfielder, that number 8, just all about keeping possession and just facilitating the ball. Just the blend of offense and defense. She's, for my money, the best in the world in that position. She's back. And Rose Lavelle, who's probably my favorite player, she's that number 10. She's the point guard, assist-getting top player. Can take a big shot from outside of the box, but mainly a facilitator, passer, going to rack up a lot of assists. So that core midfield there is back. Crystal Dunn, who she played left back at the last tournament. She will probably play that again. She's a midfielder by trade. In NWSL, I think she plays up top. She's scoring a ton of goals. But she slid into that left back in 2019, like basically having never played it, and ended up by the end of the tournament, got better each game, and was maybe the best left back in the world by the time it was over. So she's back as well. So the core, the spine of the team mostly still there. The goalkeeper's back as well, Alyssa Nair. Center back, we've got big issues because Becky Sauerbrunn, who was one of the most important players on the 2015 and the 2019 team, she's injured as well. So another brutal injury. This would have been her last World Cup. So that hurts as well. But some of the key players are back, but we're having to replace a lot. Megan Rapinoe is back as well, I should mention, but she's kind of past her prime. She's not going to start. She'll come off the bench, but.
And I was reading
Yeah.
that Lavelle is kind of dealing with a knee injury too that no one really knows a ton about.
Yeah, that would. If she doesn't get to play, that'll just be brutal. I mean, with the question marks in the attack as it is, because Morgan, like I said, is going to be the striker, but on either side of her, I assume Sophie Smith will be one of those wingers. She's a kind of similar player to Mallory Swanson. And then the other wing, I'm not sure. One of my friends is theorizing that Crystal Dunn will actually move up and play the wing, which would be interesting. Katarina Macario is another superstar player that is injured. She would have been an obvious person to step into the wing. She's hurt. So, yeah, I don't know. Trinity Rodman is, Dennis Rodman's daughter. She's a potential to play that spot, but I kind of doubt she starts. She is on the team, though, so I don't know. I mean, we've got a lot of question marks.
And with Trinity Rodman, anytime I see her highlights from the NWSL, they're always incredible. Like her footwork and her athleticism. You mentioned the Dennis Rodman connection. Like certainly Dennis, famously one of the craziest NBA players ever, but also one of the most gifted in terms of like conditioning and everything. Like they said he could have been a 400-meter Olympic runner, which if you've ever tried to run a 400-meter, you know the kind of compliment that is. But she's still pretty young. I know Smith, she's young as well. And we got Alyssa Thompson was the other person I made a note of. She just graduated high school and made the roster. And I can't remember a women's World Cup team being this young, I don't think.
Yeah, and Mal Swanson, who I was hoping would be healthy and playing, I think she's 22.
That's
Lynn
good for
Williams,
the future.
Yeah. Lynn Williams is another one that could potentially play that spot. She's done really well in NWSL. So I mean, we've got a lot of options. We've got a lot of players that are scoring a lot of goals in NWSL, but have not done it for the national team yet. So, we're still probably the most talented team overall at the tournament, but a lot of question marks. And as we'll get to, there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of other good teams. So it's not going to be easy.
Well, with this roster and looking ahead, how do you expect us to overcome the issues we've had with injuries and the question marks we've got at center back? Like, do you expect us to, even though the goals haven't come yet, to try to be more direct and score those goals, or what are you thinking for this tournament?
So if we had a great coach, I would feel fine. I would have no worries whatsoever because the talent pool is there. An elite coach would just figure it out. The tools are available, but I just don't trust Vlatko to get it done. So it's going to be hard for me to pick us to repeat as champion. It's going to be hard to pick anybody else too, because there's so many good teams and there's so many. The other teams have problems too. Like we talked about with Spain and France, they've got issues. So, I mean, the word of the day is parity. I mean, it's just, this is the most up in the air I can ever remember the World Cup being.
I guess a better way to phrase that question would have been like, do you think we're just going to try to outscore people or try to park the bus a little bit more, as they say, to protect against our defensive deficiencies?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Again, that's like a tactical shift that I don't trust our current coach to make.
Well, I'm excited. Well, speaking of parity, let's talk about who is going to challenge us. I know we're still the favorites from everywhere I've seen, but it's very slim. And not only is it slim, you were talking about like the past World Cups, how there would be a challenger or two, but now it feels like there's a host of nations who could compete with us for it. So who are you looking at that might get in the way?
All right, so I'm going to give a brief rundown of, according to the betting odds here, we're the favorite. Very, very close behind us is England, who they were very good at the last World Cup. Very good again. Spain and Germany and France round out the top five. Australia is the sixth favorite. They're the host nation. They're always good, and then they're going to have that boost of being the host nation. So they're a very viable candidate to win this thing. The Olympic silver medal team, Sweden, they're the seventh favorite. And then the Olympic gold medalist team, Canada's the 11th favorite. So like when you've got a team that won a gold medal and they're not even in the top 10 favorites to win the World Cup, like that shows you how much parity there is right there. And Japan and Brazil, they're 9th and 10th favorites. They're always, a possibility to win the thing. So the fact that they're at the tail end of the top 10 is just insane.
Yeah, this has got to be, because these are all teams that, as you mentioned, like they've been challengers in individual years, but have them all kind of right there in this huge pack all together and coinciding with the issues that we're having. That's a little bit scary, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll get into the players to watch in a minute, but I mean, these teams have just superstars. I mean, probably better players than we have, even from top to bottom. Our roster is still probably the best, but it's a loaded tournament. I mean, really, it makes it. I mean, from a neutral perspective, it makes it a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah. Well, did you want to go into just like break down a couple of the favorite teams, or we can?
Yeah. So England, like I said, England's the second favorite. They're the current champions of Europe. So Europe does their own kind of version of the World Cup called the Euros, where all the national teams compete. England won that. All of their players play in the Premier League over there, but obviously a very good league. They've got some key injuries as well. Mead, their striker, who's one of the best in the world, she's going to be out for this World Cup. They're actually not bringing a ton back from the previous World Cup team, which was extremely good. Lucy Bronze is like the only name I remember that's on this team that was also on the last World Cup. But that just shows how deep they are, that they're able to field a roster with a lot of turnover and still be the favorite. So, or the second favorite. So they're a team to worry about. Spain, they're the third favorite. They might, if they didn't have the off-field issues I described going on, they might be my pick to win it. They've got the best player in the world, who I'll talk about later when we do our players to watch. But no question about it, Alexia Putellas is the best player in the world right now. And everything, runs through her. Germany, they're playing extremely well. England knocked them out in the Euros, so they made a deep run in the Euros. They're playing very well. France, they've got the mutiny issues I described, and some of the more recognizable players from previous World Cups aren't there, but Laysamer is still there. Renard, the center back, is still there. And they'll have players that you've never heard of just pop up and be superstars this World Cup. Like they're almost like us in terms of just a limitless talent pool. So they're always going to be dangerous. And the fact that they haven't won a World Cup these last several is crazy, because like I said, in 2015, I felt like they were the best team. In 2019, they were the second best team behind us. And we just, the way the tournament was structured, we faced each other very early in the tournament, so they got knocked out early, but they were, I would say, easily the second best team that tournament. They could have played in a final. So, the fact that they haven't won one is pretty crazy with how good they've been. And then Australia, of course, they're always good at these tournaments. Sam Kerr, I'm going to talk about her on the players to watch. Their striker is extremely good. And they're the hosts. I mean, the hosts always get a boost, and they're one of the top teams anyway. And then the fact that they're hosting, I mean, you could argue that they're, one of the top 2 or 3 favorite teams to win it.
It's funny to me going down this list and hearing all these teams whose men's teams are also national powers. And then we got Greg.
Yeah. So like US is an exception to that. We're getting better on the men's side, but
in
the
Australia
team, in Australia, yeah, that's the other one. So those are 2 examples, but France, Germany, Spain, England, and then Brazil's up there too. Obviously, the greatest men's team ever.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the players, because that was a big part of the men's World Cup. I was there for Messi, and then I left one of the world's biggest Kylian Mbappe fans. So who do I need to be watching so that I can be happy like that again, even though hopefully we can have the women's national team there too?
So I'm going to do these in order from player you most need to see down. So my number 1 player to watch is Sam Kerr. She's the striker for Australia. She would be in my top 2 or 3 players to watch for anyway, but the fact that they're hosting, this once in a lifetime opportunity for her to play for the host nation, I think she's going to show out. So she's pretty small. But she wins a lot of headers. I mean, she can just jump out of the gym, even though they don't play in a gym. She extremely good in the air. Scores exciting goal. Like, she'll score bicycle kicks. I mean, she goes for big goals. Very fast, very quick, smart runs. Good with the ball at her feet. So she's just a very, very fun striker to watch. And also a big personality. Any goals she scores, she's always got a fun goal celebration she does. I mean, so she's just a lot of fun.
Have you ever tried to do a bicycle kick yourself?
No. And I never run a 400 meter. You mentioned that earlier too. I haven't done that either.
These are things we'll go through, but it seems like I would break my neck. So that does sound incredible. Like, it doesn't look like something with the way our healthcare system is set up that I would even want to attempt.
Yeah. So Sam Kerr, number 1 player to watch. Number 2, Alexia Putellas of Spain. So, like I said, she's the best player in the world. She's won the female version of the Ballon d'Or, which is the world's best player. She's won the European Player of the Year, I think, the last 2 times. So 1 of 2 homework assignments I'm going to give the listeners. Go and just go to YouTube and just type in her name and watch her highlights. I mean, there's nobody like it in the world. Like, the closest comp I can come up with is Messi, really. I mean, she's that good. But she's like bigger and stronger even, relative. So she's an attacking midfielder. So most of the players I name are going to be strikers. So they score the goals, but they'll go long stretches without touching the ball because the midfielders have to get the ball to them. So she plays attacking mid. So she's going to be on the ball all the time, making passes, dribbling by people, and scoring goals herself. I mean, her highlight reel is just absolutely incredible. I mean, she's the best passer of the ball in the world. I mean, just inch perfect. The vision is just incredible. The way she sees the runs other players are making to get them the ball. And like I say, she scores goals herself too. She's not just a facilitator. Dribbles past people so quick, so fast, and she even receives passes like brilliantly. That stood out to me too, the way she's just clairvoyant in knowing where everybody is on the field, and she'll receive the pass and immediately already be going past the defender. I mean, she's just there's no question she's the best player in the world. I mean, absolute must watch for sure.
So you're talking about the midfield is like that point guard position for basketball, and the striker, to me, just to help my basketball brain, that kind of reminds me of like dumping it down low to Shaq back in the day.
Yeah. So a striker I'll get to later, I would like compare to Shaq, a big, strong figure. Sam Kerr would be like a modern center. I mean, she's very small. She's like 5'5", but like a modern center that can shoot and is mobile and stuff too. But definitely the focal point of the attack. The midfielders, I would say, like, you kind of have 2 point guards. I would say your center midfielder, your number 8, is like a maybe a classic point guard that like just get the ball beyond the half court line, just call out a play and pass it. Just control the tempo, don't do too much. The number 10 is more like your slashing, creative, get the assist kind of guard.
Okay,
and that's
so like a Michigan State or Duke point guard back in the day.
Yeah.
Thinking of Steve Wojciechowski versus someone cool and who didn't go to Duke. Kenny Anderson from my 90s basketball fans. Stephon Marbury. This is gonna devolve very quickly into me just I got the immaculate grid on my mind, so I'm just going old athletes all day. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Yeah. So Alexia Putellas, best player at the tournament, going to be number 2 on my most watch list just because Sam Kerr is the host. Number 3 player to watch, I'm going Marta from Brazil. So she's playing in her 6th World Cup.
I was about to say, man, I've heard of her forever. This can't. I swore when you mentioned her to me when we were doing pre-production, I was like, there's got to be two of them. This is like Marta Jr. or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But so her 6th World Cup, she's 37 years old. Everything I said about Putellas, you can kind of apply to her. She's an attacking midfielder, great dribbler, likes to take players on, likes to dribble past them. I mean, she's really a classic Brazilian player. The Brazil men's national team, if you think about over their history, when they're at their best, they're kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters of soccer. A lot of tricks, a lot of just flair. She has all of that skill set. She'll, rainbow flick you. I mean, she'll do it. Like, she's just extremely flair skilled player. But unlike a lot of the men's players, I'm talking about Neymar here, there ain't no flopping and rolling around when she gets breathed on. I mean, she's a bulldog too. So she'll run. If she can't dribble around you, she'll dribble through you. So she's, strong, tough player with a ton of skill. Widely recognized as the best women's player ever. Putellas might have something to say about it by the time her career's over, but currently Marta is the GOAT, and this is your last opportunity to see her. She has announced this is her last World Cup.
Speaking of the flopping, is that more or less prevalent in women's soccer?
It's like non-existent in women's soccer.
Because I was watching the WNBA, and they don't flop either. Like, they beat the hell out of each other. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why exactly it is, but I mean, it's absolutely non-existent in the women's game, and that's a big feather in its cap. But I mean, that's a big reason I love to watch it. Because I used to work adult soccer games, and they would be out there. It was the same thing. Like, Because all the men who play adult soccer, they're just waiting to get called up to the national team. If you ask them, like, it's just a matter of time. But the women are out there just competing, beating the hell out of each other. Never really turns into a fight or anything. They just go home.
Yeah.
And it's very peaceful. And the men are flopping around, having to be fake held back. And that's why I don't work adult soccer anymore.
Yeah. So that's true. There's not they go out there and play, and they play hard, and it makes for a great game. It really does.
Do you know how much Marta's expected to play in this World Cup? Is it going to be like Rapinoe, where just some spot action, or is she just?
No, I think she did suffer an injury. She is working back from an injury. Pia Sundhage, who is the coach of Brazil, who used to be the women's coach, remember her?
Yes.
She has announced that Marta is probably going to come off the bench for like the first game, but hopefully after that she's full go. I mean, I think the expectation is she's full go, and if she's healthy, she's still a starter. I mean, it's not a Rapinoe issue where other players have overtaken her and you're going to bring her off the bench. I mean, she is still the best player on that team.
That's just wild at that age.
Yeah.
6 World Cups to be able to do that. Damn.
Yeah.
We're over here. We can't even run 400 meters. All right. Well, who's next?
All right. So next player, Ada Hegerberg from Norway. So she, as I mentioned earlier, set out the last World Cup due to those issues we described with France and Spain. She cited very similar talking points, lack of professionalism, things like that, just protesting the state of the women's game. So she set out the last World Cup. Thankfully, she's back, and I've not heard her get talked about a lot, which is weird because she's still one of the best players in the world. I mean, she's right in the middle of her prime. I think she's 29. She plays for Olympique Lyon as her club team, and anybody that knows anything about women's soccer, that is the elite team in the world. They've invested in the women's game for a long, long time. Their bench players are better than your starters, basically. They're just a collection of superstars from top to bottom. And she's been their striker for a long time. So that just shows how great she is. She's the Champions League, which is the top club level competition. She's scored more goals than any player in history in that competition. She's a striker, kind of similar to Sam Kerr, I guess, in that she is a striker, but very mobile, very, running. She's not just trying to win headers. I mean, she's moving around a lot. She's a great passer of the ball, great with the ball at her feet, very well-rounded striker, but very good in the air too. I mean, most of her goals do come from headers, but she's doing a lot more than that as well. So she's very happy that she's back to get to see her play.
And again, that is admirable to me that someone who is at the top of their game would take such a strong stance, because it's not just affecting her, it's affecting the whole team, making things better for them, hopefully. I'm assuming that's why she's back. I'm sure it's not perfect, but that feels unique to women's sports as well.
Yeah, for sure. I've got 2 more. So Kristen Sinclair from Canada, gold medal winning Canada team, but 11th favorite in this World Cup somehow. She is a classic striker. I mean, she's big, tall, strong. Not to say she can't move around and make plays with her feet, but she's really trying to out-jump you and win headers mostly. That's worked very well for her because she's scored more international goals than any female player in history. She's also playing in her 6th World Cup. She's 40 years old. So, another player that this is an all-time great player. This is your last opportunity to see her. Probably not quite as exciting as Marta, but still, she's probably going to score some goals.
I think I remember her from the big. Was that the World Cup where it was the big U.S. Canada match? And
Yeah,
I forget what. I feel like that was one of those Rapinoe moments to that game, but I might be misremembering because I'm getting old.
yeah,
And
pretty
she's
sure
had so
Sinclair
many.
scored. Yeah, yeah. I think Sinclair scored in that game. But yeah, Canada's good. I mean, it's crazy to me. Like I keep saying this, it's crazy that they're the 11th favorite on the betting line. But yeah, they're good, and this is their figurehead player for sure.
It's kind of like when the preseason SEC rankings come out and South Carolina's not picked to win the SEC East, and we'll be like, "Wow, this is a really strong conference. It must be."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, did you not read our message boards? How good we are. My last player, Alexandra Popp from Germany. Very cool last name.
Yes.
Popp, P-O-P-P. She's been at it a while. She's in her early 30s. Another classic striker type, more mobile than Sinclair, but very much all about winning headers, scoring goals with her head. And she's just like ferocious is the way I would describe her. I mean, she attacks headers and just tries to fucking explode the ball. I mean, she's just
That's
aggressive.
badass.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be fun to watch. And Germany is what I say, the third favorite to win the thing. So yeah, she's Germany's figurehead player, and she's particularly coming into this tournament hot for her club team and for Germany. She has been scoring a ton of goals in the Euro competition I mentioned. She scored a shitload of goals for Germany, so she's probably coming into this as hot as any player.
I love it when a player's last name matches up with their play style like that too.
Yeah, that is a good, yeah.
If we were going to go for a couple hours here, we could just sit and just start naming that off of sports. That's going to be, we're working on something that we can't share right now, but I think that should be added to what our secret project. How's that for a tease? Look at this. Okay.
That is a good one.
So you told us about the players to watch, the teams to watch. If you had to pick and bet, you've got two kids now, both of their college funds on who is going to win, who would you? I mean, it's their futures. Who would you pick?
Yeah. Okay, let's see this. I haven't really even put a ton of thought into this. If Spain didn't have the mutiny type issues going on, I would probably pick them, but they do. And like I said, questionable tactics to handle it. Just telling the players, show up if you want to. They want players that want to play. So England, I mean, I'm going to pick the U.S. still. I mean, I don't trust our coach, but I still think we've got the most talent. I did talk about how much turnover we're having, but we still bring back most of the best players from that previous World Cup. I'm going to pick us just because, like I said, everybody else has issues too. I mean, I can go through each team and point out flaws that they have also. So, but you did frame it as a betting question, however. So let me answer it that way.
So that adds a little wrinkle to it. But we've gotten your non-betting pick.
Yeah, I just can't pick against the U.S. Australia's another one I would mention, but I'll mention them with the betting. So we are a plus 225 favorite, meaning you bet $100. If we win it, you win 225. I would never make that bet. Like that's just not enough return on investment there. England's plus 300. I wouldn't make that either. For me, if I was betting it, and I possibly will be, I would go further down the list and take some of these teams that have a higher return. Just because there's so much parity, there's so many teams that can win it. Why not, make a higher payout bet? So I'm looking at Australia here. They're 10-1. You could bet $100 on them. If they win the tournament, you win 1,000. And I think they've got a good chance being the host nation. So that's probably where I would put my money. France is plus 900. That's not a bad idea. Japan and Brazil are down here at plus 2,800. You could bet $100 and win 280. I mean, that might not be a bad idea to throw a couple dollars on them. I mean, again, we're going back to just insane levels of parity. And I didn't even mention the Netherlands, who we beat in the final of the previous World Cup. They're the 8th favorite to win this one at plus 2,500. I mean, it's crazy how many good teams there are.
So you could really split up their college funds and move them around and hedge and come out on top, and everything will be fine in your household and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can also see Brett completely unbiased here today. I mean, he spent part of the college fund on Team USA merch, which a true patriot. So I respect that. I've got my Lakers shirt on because I am an idiot.
So where would you know how it works with the stars, right?
No, this is good. This is educational.
So every time you win a World Cup, you add a star to your badge. That's why there's 4. Right. So where do you place because there was a lot of controversy. Like this is going into the 2019 World Cup, it looked like this, right?
And that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So there was question of like, where do you put the 4th? There's not an obvious place to put it.
I think you have to make like a star design out of the stars.
That's interesting. And then if we win this one, the 5th one, I think you just shift it to here.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. So with the 4, there's no really good way to do it. But with the 5, I think you do the 5 points on a star for a giant star. Since the star has 5 points. But with the 4, that's probably as good as you're going to get right there, unless you do you could do a square, I imagine. Last time I checked, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the math. I think a square has 4 points, but this is why all I've got is the star suggestion. I don't have, it doesn't look terrible right now as is.
Well, it's a good problem to have.
Exactly.
To have stars, and that makes it even more important to win the next one.
And the men don't have to worry about it at all. So
no, that win probably never will. So
I can't wait to never see that. Was there anything else we didn't cover that we need to cover? I mean, we handled the star thing.
This is a men's hat.
Yes, they're perfect.
Yeah.
They don't have to. That's some of the whoever they had to pay. I'm sure they had like an allocation in their budget for a star design guy. In the
like
they just shifted that over.
Yeah, like they had hired a search firm for the last coaching search and hired the fucker that they already have.
That's good. How do you get that job? You know what? I think you should just not do anything.
Yeah. We hired a search firm to come up with Will Muschamp back in the day. So at least not quite as bad as that.
There's no bigger scam than the coaching search firm. So, but I think we covered it all, did we? I mean, we've even gone into search firms. Well, shit.
Yeah.
Good for us. This is going to be, I'm even more excited for this than I was for the men's. Because we're good at women's soccer and because there's less flopping, I enjoy the Women's World Cup way more than the men's World Cup typically, even though I know the broadcast TV times are going to be a little bit different with the time.
Yeah,
that's going to be tough.
It's like 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. and shit. So, so that's going to be tough. The Olympics was similar times, and I had just had my first child, so that was stupid to try to get up and watch those games when sleep was at such a premium anyway, and we looked like shit. I mean, that was such a miserable period of time. We were just zombies waking up at 3 a.m. to watch us fucking lose 1-0, and just yeah, that was terrible. But this one's going to be worth it to wake up for, I hope.
And now you've got the two. Yeah, and now you've got the 2 college funds to bet. So this is great.
Yeah.
It worked out.
So let me say one last thing. We can cut this out I'm hoping you can do some editing. Our previous coach was not named Jill Lewis. Her name was Jill Ellis. I don't know what the fuck I was saying. Like, I kept saying Jill Lewis. I think there's somebody at my work that I deal with sometimes named Jill Lewis. So that's what I was doing. Her name is Jill Ellis.
I don't know if I can edit that.
I hope you can edit it, because that's very fucking embarrassing.
I don't know if I can, but it might be funnier just to leave this in with the explanation.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's fine.
I mean, let's be real. This is something I've learned. This is educational. This isn't part of the World Cup. This is something I've learned just from studying other people's sports podcasts and everything. No one knows anything. Like, this was the most comprehensive breakdown on the Women's World Cup I've heard. I cannot imagine. Do you think right now, Stephen A. Smith, Pat McAfee, the highest paid people in sports media, they don't know Jill anybody?
I could recommend some good podcasts where they did a much better job than I did, but no, it ain't them fuckers. It's some people you've probably never heard of.
No, I tell you what, this is how you redeem yourself. See, I can't even talk, and I'm doing this. Recommend those podcasts in case we want to hear about Jill Ellis as well. And that will be how Brett is showing you. He knows soccer just by knowing these podcasts. And now you can step your soccer game up too, since I can't force Brett to come on every episode.
So I'll do that, and I'll also get more into her tactics from the last World Cup. I debated getting into that, but I'll go ahead and do that, and you can cut it out if you want to. So the podcast, the Total Soccer Show, I've been listening to them for many years. TSS is their colloquial name, Total Soccer Show. They've grown a ton. They've got like several people that join now. They're just fantastic. They've got like tactical guys that like break down the game in minute detail. They've got more high level guys. I mean, it's just an awesome, awesome show. They'll cover this World Cup like every day probably. So I would definitely check them out. Alexi Lawless gets a ton of hate, but I actually like him. I don't know how smart he is necessarily, but he seems happy to do his job, and that
goes a long way.
It really does go a long way. He enjoys himself. So, and he's got a dude on the show with him that is really a brilliant soccer mind. So I would recommend the State of the Union podcast. That's Alexi Lawless's podcast. So again, cut this out, please. But just to make me feel a little better. The last 2015 World Cup.
Okay, hold on real quick, because I'm probably not going to cut this out. But so if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I do think it would be good for people to hear. Like, first of all, we're about to give Jill Ellis her flowers. Second, misspeaking on a name is not the end of the world. And I would do it so much more frequently. If y'all knew how many takes that I do on my solo performances, Brett just does this as a hobby to help me out. So if you come for Brett, you're going to have to come through me if you have a problem with his soccer coverage. We're getting into Jill Ellis now. This is the Jill Ellis show. Brett, do your thing.
What makes the reason I care so much is because like it was the first fucking thing I said. I come on here, I got the flag behind me and the shirt and the hat on and shit. I'm talking about Jill Lewis out of the gate. Like that. And you're like, here's my expert. Well, Jill Lewis, let me tell you about her. So, okay.
To be fair, again, Brett just had this second child. I don't know how much sleep Brett's getting. He's prepping for no sleep during the World Cup as well. If you judge Brett or this podcast because of one minor detail, which is major, it's her name, but we're correcting it now and we're giving her flowers. I swear to God, I will come find you and I will fight you.
All right. Can you see this?
Actually, much better than I thought. Yes. Okay.
That is a 4-4-2. Okay, that's a 4-4-2 formation. That's what we come out in the 2015 World Cup. Okay, Carly Lloyd, you remember her?
Yes.
She was one of those midfielders in the center. And Holiday, Lauren Holiday, Drew Holiday's wife.
Yeah, okay.
Which she's probably a better player at her sport than Drew, so we should just I know you're a basketball focused podcast. That's why I say this.
Thank you. Yeah, she's definitely better at soccer than he is at basketball.
All right. They are the two center midfielders, okay? You see these two?
Yep.
All right. So what happens in a 4-4-2? The classic, well, this is the classic formation too, but the more typically used formation is a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, meaning you've got three center midfielders, okay? With the 4-4-2, you're missing a body. So these two players have to understand, if you go forward in the attack, I've got to stay back. Okay, it can't work otherwise. You can't have both of these players going forward. Both of these players like to go forward, however. So that just fucked that team up entirely when they had these two in the center mid, because they just couldn't. They couldn't get an understanding of one another of, I'm going to go forward now, you stay back. They both wanted to go forward, which led to them both like staying back too much even, because they just couldn't get the pattern right. And Carly Lloyd, if you know anything about her, she's the type that would say, okay, I'll stay back. No, never mind. Fuck it. I'm going forward. She was very like not a tactically focused type player. She's very much I'm going to do what I want to, and I'm going to score a hat trick in the final to beat Japan type of player. So what Jill Ellis did,
boom,
she brought in a player called Morgan Bryan, who's solid player, obviously wouldn't be playing for the national team if she wasn't. But she's not played in another World Cup since then, and she's like still young, like, so she's not an elite player. But she is a defensive midfielder that is going to stay back defensively. She's just going to be happy. I'm happy to be here. I'll do whatever you want. So she comes in. And she sits back here and is always defensive. So that gives Carly Lloyd and Laura Holiday freedom to do whatever the hell they want to do. That leads to a World Cup title. And that's the switch that, I don't know that Vlatko would have been willing to make. Oh, and also the 4-4-2, that back in the day, that was Abby Wambach. You remember her?
Yep.
And Alex Morgan up top. Well, we sacrificed Abby Wambach, like the all-time U.S. leading scorer, to make that change. So that was another great decision that Jill Ellis made. So that's the kind of thing she was willing to do.
And that's why this has turned into the Jill Ellis podcast.
Yes.
And Brett clearly knows Jill Ellis very well. He just broke down everything she's ever done. You will not get this
What's
kind of
your
coverage.
Is your mom's middle name Lewis or some shit?
No.
Is that what fucked me up also? Okay.
Her middle name's Jill.
Oh, okay. Well, definitely. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. That was weird. I think I've sent one email to Jill Lewis, but it's just in my head.
It's just in your head. Hey, and most of the same letters are there too. So that's That's not your fault.
That's it's a is. It's the is.
Yeah.
Ellis Lewis. Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Well, this is above and beyond right here. We should call this Above and Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. So this has been another fantastic episode. Appreciate y'all watching, liking, subscribing. Oh God, we've gone completely off the rails. Subscribing, rating, reviewing, and sharing. And I will catch y'all next week.
Wait, we didn't talk about Livy Dunn and Baby Gronk.